very excited to have such an esteemed panelist. When Vin first kind of shared this vision of how parts of the fund would actually be going to support humanitarian efforts, we got really excited because traditionally Bitcoin was always seen as a tool for wealth creation. But now we are actually going to be focusing on how we can actually use this as a platform for impact, right? And what better than guys like yourself who have been involved in multiple platforms in public-private partnerships. And it's really excited that we're going to be involved and we're going to be working with you guys. But before we get started, maybe we'll get a round of introductions. Perhaps you could share a bit about yourself, Sergio, and then maybe we could pass the mic around.
Sergio Fernandez de Cordova, and Chairman of the Public Foundation, but more importantly in this context, I am the co-founder alongside Amir and Vince, who you heard from before, Mr. Molinari, co-founders of the Blockchain Commission and the Blockchain for Impact platform. And a lot of the work that we do with that is really looking at how blockchain space, crypto space can be a force for good, to help empower other leaders, empower others to do good, i.e. like you guys, and really step up and be part of the conversation, not just be sort of talking about it, but rather actually be there with us. A lot of the work that we as public do is we do a lot of work in media, data, technology, and how we advance these conversations, create partnerships to advance not only projects, programs, but that we're doing it along the Sustainable Development Goals. And just really excited to be here because we're excited because of the work that Vince has been, Vin has been a strong supporter of Blockchain for Impact. And has been a partner since the first time we launched, and it's exciting to see what you all are doing. It's just the growth is just incredible, as Vince was saying before.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you, Prakash, for hosting this dialogue. And I want to thank the organizers for this really exciting conversation. I'm always wary when people call me a mentor. That makes me feel old. I'm actually 21. My background is that I had the privilege and honor to serve at the United Nations for 25 years. And the last 10 of those I spent in building public-private partnerships, including this concept of innovation and entrepreneurship. And I was privileged to serve as the counterpart for Ted Turner's philanthropy when he committed $1 billion. And it became quite clear very quickly that there were many others who wanted to support humanitarian causes. So it was really a gift from heaven to be able to do this kind of a job. It's a fun job. You learn about what other people are doing, and you try and provide them a platform, encourage them and engage them, and hopefully that can lead to a multiplier effect. So Global Partnerships Forum, which we run now, which we set up after my, quote, graduation from the UN, is based on that model. Learn from the private sector, encourage them to invest in sustainable investments, sustainability, sustainable development goals, and you'll get a rate of return. Today, COVID-19 has devastated communities around the world. We often don't see the plight of those underprivileged, the way they're struggling. Even the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, they are the highest risk of dying. So we need to find solutions. We need to do things where we can create better health, better education. Those two things can impact all of the other 15 Sustainable Development Goals. And we do them by threading together innovative partnerships. So I'm honored and privileged to be here on this panel. Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me here. Appreciate it. I always speak about blockchain 3.0, which doesn't really exist, not even yet today. Because Bitcoin, okay, it was a revolutionary, and everybody is talking about it based on the first commerce perspective. However, the overall speaking, the smart contracts are the real things that are changing the fintech right now. Now imagine what we could achieve if these smart contracts, if these protocols could communicate to each other. That's my personal goal and how we are engaging with Seven Markets Group and the portfolio companies that I'm engaging with personally. And we have seen great impact of these where blockchain is being utilized by the UN for Syrian refugees so that the transparency is there. We have seen blockchain being utilized by some of the top fashion companies to fight against replicas, watch industries, and so on. We have seen blockchain being utilized by artists to fight against, again, their fake products being put in there. So the technology itself is immense, but what pities me personally, or what worries me and bothers me is that most of the time people are talking about immediate financial gains, which is about and around blockchain fintech application. But if we go over and beyond our small box of thinking and seeing what is there based on the public fear of missing out, we can see a much bigger utilization of it that can change our lives to better part. And I want to just put one thing. Blockchain is so far the only technology that actually brought people together.
Mr. Amir, once you mentioned ICT is the golden thread for achieving the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Where do you see blockchain playing an integral part as a catalyst and a key enabler for us to actually accelerate the progress of the 17 SDGs? I know you briefly talked about it, but maybe we could hear more from you on that.
Today, COVID-19 has created multiple divides, but two major divides: those who have access to the internet and those who do not. And I'm also part of the Broadband Commission for Sustainable Development, and it's clearly highlighted that huge lacuna. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer, and the poor do not have access to information and communication technology, don't have access to the internet, World Wide Web, and so on. So that, if you put those things together, if you provide access to the internet, which means you provide access to information, access to learning, access to data. Yagub mentioned that so correctly what the UN is doing in Syria using blockchain, Syrian refugees. World Food Programme, for example, they have created an internet hub in refugee camps, distribute food aid. So in the olden days, you'd say, okay, here's a bag of rice for one family. Yeah. By the time it got to that family, it became a cup of rice. And so on. Sure. Today, you know instantaneously whether I got that bag of rice or I got that half a cup of rice or half a bag of rice. So blockchain creates that transparency, and blockchain is one segment of this, what we call frontier technologies. And I have to say that Sergio, Vince, both of them was pioneers in this thinking, and I was privileged to be part of that process when we launched not only the Blockchain Commission for Sustainable Development, but the Blockchain for Impact, where we brought together innovators. And the UN came to us and said, can you help us, give us some use cases, give us some ideas. Today, I have to tell you, UN is also looking at blockchain as a kind of a multiplier to do not just 10x, but 100x in terms of achieving the SDGs. So I will add to your statement about ICTs as the golden thread. Okay. I also like to feel ICTs and innovative partnerships.
Sergio, you've been always focused on a lot of PPP. Perhaps you could also kind of share how can now the private sector play a bigger role in this new world that we are rebuilding post-pandemic, and possibly something that we can build upon with blockchain as the base, and how we can actually now bring all these various emerging technologies, and like what Yagub mentioned, bringing this new trust so that there's this whole new social currency where we can actually get people to collaborate with a very one vision and a one focus.
The reason why I'm a huge fan of public-private partnerships is that both parties, and really when you're looking at, there's a government sector, there's a private sector, and then there's the NGO, and then sort of we'll call it the impact sector, right? And the Venn diagram, and by which all of them can come together and actually create opportunities, is what Amir was also talking about. And in some cases, some of the silver lining of the pandemic is that it's allowed us to focus on what we need to do to make this world better. It's allowed us to focus on how to sort of draft a new agenda around the Sustainable Development Goals, on how the blockchain community, when you start to look at, you said, new world, blockchain is a base, emerging technologies, validating trust, fast growth, and collaboration. For all of that, right, you need the government sector to actually understand and want to bring this IP in, the private sector to actually learn how to get out of their way and not just think, as Yagub, said, basically not just think about money, right? Yagub said, it's like, focus around the good that you could do, right? And basically that element is a lot of what Amir, Vince, and I did when we launched the commission. The commission was really based on how we brought high-level stakeholders together. And this is something that was a page out of Amir's book, which was the Broadband Commission. Our Broadband Commission, over a decade and a half, right, has really been an instrumental, successful platform on organizing folks around the broadband community, government leaders, the government stakeholders, private sector stakeholders, innovation stakeholders, international leaders that are leading conversations, maybe not just in business. So when we saw the opportunity, and we've been pushing this conversation and driving it, the Blockchain for Impact Summit, that is now also, as for all of you to know, Vince Molinari has now been really with FinTech TV, has kind of taken in, the blockchain summit aspect of this, because the convening now needs a bigger voice, right? We were convening at the UN, we were bringing in people together to actually educate them, right? Prakash, we were educating them and saying, you've just created, and I get it, you want to make money, commercialize everything, but that IP that you created, we could bring to an LDC, a least developed country, and we could accelerate, bridge the gap to evolution by a factor that will impact people's lives more than your money ever can, right? And that's like those aha moments where people just don't realize that. And a lot of it is ego, a lot of it is they just don't even see that way. They don't see what we see. Right. And part of what we've been trying to do is bridge that, bring that together, bring those leaders together and educate them. And part of the excitement when the three of us got together and said, we need to embrace this. We need to bring the best of all of our skills together. The Avengers, if you will, right? Amir's incredible experience being the head of the UN office for partnerships, to build partnerships, right? And the work that he's been doing with his organization, us on looking at how we bring media, data, technology for partnerships, right, to do good, right? Vince's understanding of the regulatory framework of where the future of blockchain and his background in the Jobs Act and all these pieces. So we started to look at it and said, hey, our collective DNA could really look at where this new world is, going back to what we said, new world, blockchain as a base, right, emerging, technologies, fast growth, validating trust. That trust is not validated unless people could sit down at a table and have a conversation. Regardless of how much trust technology brings, it's ultimately the platforms that actually have to understand that they could also improve and do good. Trust is great, but are you actually improving society, or are you just creating trust to make more money? So not to misunderstand the definition of trust, right? When you talk about over-commercialization, yeah, we all have trust, but did we forget? Did we leave people behind? And I think that the blockchain community as a whole has an incredible opportunity right, to really do good. And what we're excited about being here is that with what is being launched and being built is the DNA from the beginning, right? Vin and I have been going back and forth for over literally, I don't know, 7 months, right? Every week. And he's just like, Sergio, I want to do good. I want to do this. And he's like, how? And it's about baking that DNA, and it takes leadership,
Sure.
right? Prakash, it takes leadership to literally understand that in order to do good, you have to live, breathe, and be it, not just talk about it. And that's a lot of the work that Amir was just talking about and how you bring these leaders together. So from our perspective, I think it's exciting, as you can tell from my excitement here, because of the fact that, this is what we've been laughing. This is what we've been really trying to implement on a regular basis. And, it took a pandemic, right? But here we are. And so I think that, from a community perspective, it's not an opportunity, it's a responsibility. And I think the moment people in the blockchain community understand that, right, we can start to look at what that new world and how blockchain will really start to evolve. You can't force it. It has to be built from the inside.
The key takeaway that I have, it's all about partnerships, right? It's about how each one of us can bring that talent, our superhero powers collectively. And if we can all combine our strengths, we would definitely be able to achieve the goals that we are setting. So I think we're really, really excited about this progressive partnership that we're going to be working on. Definitely looking forward to working closely with you, gentlemen. And hopefully we get to meet you guys in person here in Singapore. So Singapore possibly is going to be hosting the World Economic Forum at the end of this year. And perhaps we could do something on the fringe. And so we can keep this conversation going. We can bring more stakeholders together and to bring things beyond just talk into implementation. And I think this is where we'll need a lot of support from the stakeholders like yourselves. And I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for your support, as well as all the contribution towards making this a success. Thank you very much.
For me personally, when I had a choice to choose my team, because this space is so niche, there's so few of us, and we had the privilege of choosing our teams. For me, blockchain was the decentralization of ownership, what our gentlemen have been talking about. The push for that, there were so many voices about democratization, fundamental rights and everything. So when a technology could enable that, and when an innovation is saying you can do good and make money, I was like, I want to be part of that team. That was my personal view, and that's why I jumped into this team, and that's what keeps me moving forward every day. And every day I wake up like, let's do this. So how about you, Prakash?
To be very honest, I think I was really very inspired by Dr. Vin going all the way to the UN General Assembly and really just bringing the topic up, right? And talking about blockchain, how it could be implemented from a healthcare perspective. And I felt, being involved in the blockchain space for a long time, a lot of people do it for a lot of wrong reasons. But I think Vin was very, very clear, right? He's like, look, we can make money, yet we can do good. And by doing good, we actually are able to help a lot more people. And I think that really was the biggest inspiration that I've had with Vin. And he's always kept that going, even with with the BGBF fund. He's always said, what else can we do, right? How much more can we push forward with? And I think beyond the financial commitment that the fund is making, Vin has always reminded me that it's also the resources that we have, right? The people that we know, the talent that we have. And if we can actually start pooling a lot of these resources, bringing more people together, we can actually attract good talent and collectively, like what Sergio says, we'll bring together the Avengers. We will lead the way, but we strongly believe that a lot of people will follow. And like what Vin says, after that, our job is done. The movement will take its own life, and I'm sure things will just get bigger and stronger.
I think it was a very in-depth and extensive webinar where a lot of questions, a lot of pointers about the fund, about the do good, about the make money that we've answered. This wouldn't have been possible without the panel. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here and sharing your thought process, sharing your views in the various topics. And on behalf of the BGBF Funds team, I thank you for your presence and we look forward to your continued support. You can contact us via our social handles or via our website where we have contact us details.